It's hard to find any consensus between Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. these days, but there is agreement that the Chinese Communist Party's targeted persecution of the Uyghur minority in China is unacceptable. Last night, the House of Representatives passed a bill to ensure that goods made in forced labor in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region of the People's Republic of China do not enter the United States market. And the bill passed the House via unanimous voice vote. Here to highlight this rare moment of unity in the House of Representatives is my colleague, Arielle Del Turco, FRC's Assistant Director of the Center for Religious Liberty. Arielle, welcome back.
Great to be with you, Joseph.
Good to see you. Tell us a bit more about this bill and what it does.
Yeah, so this bill places a rebuttable presumption on goods produced in Xinjiang that say they're likely to be made with forced labor of the Uyghur people. And that's how widespread the use of Uyghur forced labor is. In Xinjiang, the Chinese government has 1 to 3 million Uyghurs in internment camps, and they're being utilized as a source of forced labor. So they're being put to work to produce cotton and solar panels and other goods. And it's a problem for the United States because the supply chains of major US companies run through this region. And we've even had companies like Apple and Nike lobby against this bill because they know it's going to cut into their bottom line because they're profiting off of this Uyghur forced labor.
Well, that's a story in and of itself. If we know that we have American corporations that we are all supporting with purchases of our shoes and phones, that we are essentially supporting that. When do we think the impact of this will be felt by companies and then also by consumers?
So this bill has a relatively short period of enactment. It should be enacted before next year. And for companies, that means they're going to have to make some hard decisions. They're going to have to decide whether they want to leave Xinjiang or leave China because they can no longer profit off of forced labor. So we're probably going to see companies decide to move to friendlier companies in Asia or South America that aren't committing genocide on their people and committing human rights abuses through their supply chains.
I think I can speak for most Americans when I say that I would prefer to spend a bit more on a phone than believe that what my cost, the cost reduction was being provided on the back of forced labor and concentration camps. And we also know that the international community recently determined that what was happening to the Uyghurs was in fact a genocide. Now, Arielle, is this enough? Are there other things that Congress should be doing to be addressing this problem?
Well, this is an important point because this gets at the very heart of cutting China's ability to profit off of their human rights abuses and to make the rest of the world complicit in it. So this, once it passes the Senate and goes to the president, will be a very, very important move. Other moves the United States needs to be looking at are the upcoming Olympics. The Biden administration has announced a diplomatic boycott, which means the president and other diplomats will not show up and play nice with the Chinese officials, which is good. That's the right move. But we need to be getting other countries on board and joining us and saying the same thing, that we just can't treat the Chinese government like any other country because the way they're acting is not like any other country.
Speaking of that, has the Chinese government responded to this yet? Any sense that this kind of pressure is going to make any difference?
Yeah, the Chinese government reacted quite unhappily to the news that the Biden administration would be announcing a diplomatic boycott. But I think it's going to take more to see a change in their actual policies. And it's going to take the rest of the world getting on board. It's not quite a statement just that Biden's not going. It would be more of a statement if the rest of the free world and Europe were not showing up at the Olympics, but there's progress to be made.
I know this has been a big story with the NBA now because they have been very quiet about Chinese human rights abuses. And as a league, they have taken a lot of heat, at least on social media, for their refusal to condemn anything having to do with Chinese human rights abuses because of their market that they're trying to get into. Any sense that this move by Congress may begin to pressure companies that are benefiting from the Chinese government and the cash that's coming to the U.S. from there, that they might change their posture?
Oh yeah, I think this is a major sign for international companies that China is not a region that is safe to do business as normal. I mean, think about Disney. When they filmed Mulan, they filmed in the Xinjiang region and then thanked Xinjiang government entities for their cooperation and help filming. I think we're going to see stuff like that really change, hopefully, because this is a major, major move by the US government to say, China is just not a place that you can do business as normal.
Hopefully, this will make it normal to sacrifice a few dollars on behalf of human rights for the American government and, of course, American companies as well. Now, Arielle, one final question for you. That's passed the House with a unanimous voice vote. Any reason to think it will have any trouble getting through the House and getting the president's signature?
I don't think so. I think this is expected to go to the Senate, hopefully by the end of this week, and be sent to the president. There was some concern that the president and the White House was keeping this bill at arm's length, but we did see a statement come out of the White House last night that indicates that Biden will sign this and view this favorably. So that's all good news. This is a major step for Chinese human rights.
That is good news. And Arielle Del Turco, we appreciate you bringing it to us. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks.